So after 2 wins up against the English, New Zealand have one more challenge left of their July internationals, and that is heading to the USA to not play the USA. They are playing Fiji over in the US. Should be an awesome game. The Flying Fijians, of course, bringing that flair to the Super Rugby Pacific competition through the drawer, and you always know you're going to have an entertaining game when it comes to Fiji. But for New Zealand, it's going to be extremely intriguing to see what Scott Robertson does compared to what he had in his lineups for up against England, how he will change them heading into this game up against the Fijians. But in this video, I'm going to give my All Blacks starting XV that I would go with if I was in charge of this side. Now, I will mention this is extremely tricky to pick who to put onto the field up against Fiji, because you cannot underestimate this Fijian side. They are very capable, and they could cause an upset if New Zealand are not careful. But we will start with the front row. For myself, if I was in charge, I would go number 1, Ofa Tuangafasi, number 2, Asafa Amoa, and number 3, a debut for Pasilio Tosi. I feel like it's the perfect time to blood the new players for the All Blacks. Now, that would mean by that logic that I should have George Bell in the starting lineup in that hooker jersey, but I would much rather see Bell come off the bench as an impact player and have Asafa Amoa get those opportunities in the starting lineup here so that he is ready for the Rugby Championship. Ofa Tuangafasi, the other options that you could have gone with was once again Ethan de Groot, if they wanted to build up a little bit more form and chemistry between him and Tyrell Lomax, or you've also got Tamaiti Williams, who I believe if I was in charge, I would have coming off the bench for this game. But Asafa Amoa, he's had a great season in Super Rugby Pacific for the Hurricanes. He has had a couple little injury troubles, but I believe he's back to 100% now and should be one to watch out for if he starts up against the Fijians. And for those who don't know much about Pasilio Tosi, he is also a part of the Hurricane setup, managed to score himself a try in golden point time up against the Reds throughout the regular season to help the Hurricanes get yet again another victory. He's a strong scrummager, definitely the biggest surprise, the biggest bolter for the All Blacks when it came to that selection process, but he is a very capable player, also only about 25 years of age, so he has got a bright future ahead of him. Pasilio Tosi, moving on now to the locking duo. Now, number 4, I have gone with Scott Barrett. Number 5, Tupovai. Now, that is absolutely nothing against Tuipulotu before some people started conspiracy theory that I don't like the guy. I thought he played very well throughout the first match up against England as well as the second, but I don't want to see him get injured. We've got to remember he was nursing a pretty serious injury throughout the Super Rugby Pacific competition, and the last thing the All Blacks need when they've only got 3 locks in their squad is to chuck him in the deep end again up against a physical side like Fiji and end up with him out for the Rugby Championship. So I would have Tuipulotu coming off the bench in this game rather than starting, and I would give Tupovai that chance. And number 5 for Scott Barrett, this is the kind of game that he needs under his belt, definitely if he is going to be the All Blacks captain moving forward. I have to say, for a captain, we haven't seen a huge amount of him throughout the first 2 matches of the All Blacks campaign, but I think that's also just to do with confidence as well as a captain. Of course, he's not used to being able to do that at international level. Done it a little bit for the Crusaders, but I would give him that number 4 jersey. He's also had his own injuries, but not as serious, I don't believe, as Patrick Tuipulotu. But now we look through at the loose forward trio. These were 3 extremely tricky positions to fill for this contest. Now, I've gone a little bit risky, but I don't think this will be a mile off what they will go with for this matchup. I have gone with Samapeni Finau at number 6. Number 7, I've gone with Ethan Blackadder. And then number 8, Wallace Satiti. I'm giving him the starting debut up against the Fijians. He is extremely physical. Throughout Super Rugby Pacific, we saw what kind of work rate that man has, and I would love to see him get the opportunity here up against Fiji. Whether or not they start him might be a different story. If it was Razor's selection, he may actually go with Ardie Savia in the starting side and then have Wallace Satiti make his way off the bench in the second half. But for me, I would chuck him in the deep end, because so far for the Chiefs, anytime they've done that, that is when we've seen the best performances from Wallace Satiti. Ethan Blackadder, he hasn't had any minutes for the All Blacks as of yet, so it would be good to see him get a little bit of a run around. And Samapeni Finau at number 6. For me, this is an interesting choice. And to be honest, I was thinking about putting Luke Jacobson at number 6. But I want to see a standout performance from Samipeni Finau, and I feel like this game up against the Fijians is exactly what he needs to boost his confidence in that All Blacks jersey, as well as find some great form heading into the Rugby Championship. There were a lot of talks throughout the English series, particularly when I did my selection for the second match. When I took Finau out, people said that we needed taller options in the line-out. But all I'm going to say is Samipeni Finau was not really much of a line-out target for them throughout their match up against England. And at times it wouldn't have mattered if he was 7'5". The ball just wasn't going where the All Blacks wanted it to. Alongside that, we talk about how dangerous of a ball runner Samipeni Finau can have. He had one of the lowest amount of metres carried for the All Blacks throughout that second test match, only making a total of 3 metres throughout the time that he was on the field. So I want to see a big game here from Samipeni Finau, or else I do think that there is a chance that Blackadder or Jacobson get that number 6 jersey heading into the Rugby Championship. But looking through at the backline now for the All Blacks, number 9, I have gone with Cortez Ratama. He had a great game off the bench, really brought that ruck speed up for the All Blacks. There is also the other side of things, which could be that Razor decides to start Finlay Christie for this matchup. That may be because Fiji, they are strong defensively at times, but I don't believe they have that same rush defense that we would see from the English, which means that Christie, even if he is a little bit slower with his passing, he still has plenty of time to be able to get that backline moving. But Cortez Ratama, the youngster, I would give him the shot if I was in charge. Number 10, this is a really hard one at the moment because you've got the chemistry between Cortez Ratama and Damian McKenzie. They played together all throughout Super Rugby Pacific. You've then got Beauden Barrett, who had an absolutely brilliant performance off the bench in the last game for the All Blacks, whereas the game prior, we hardly saw him. So is Beauden Barrett going to be that impact player off the bench for the All Blacks this year, or is he going to be that guy that has the possibility of taking that 10 jersey, or perhaps even 15 in the starting XV? But I have gone with Damian McKenzie at number 10. Now, I feel like that is a pretty bold call, because most people have been saying after the performance that we saw from Beauden Barrett in that last game, which, by the way, he was phenomenal off the bench for the ABs. A lot of people now have him as their starting 10 ahead of McKenzie, but we've got to remember, Beauden Barrett came onto the field for Stephen Perofeta, and even though he was playing that first receiver role, when it came to the defence, he was playing fullback. So people have been trying to replace McKenzie with Beauden Barrett, whereas Beauden Barrett actually was playing for Stephen Perofeta in that first test match, which may actually impact, of course, what I'm going to do later on in my lineup. But Damian McKenzie, as much stick as the guy is getting, he's still having some very strong moments. When Barrett did make his way off the bench, I actually thought McKenzie got a lot stronger. Seemed like he was playing with a lot more confidence as well, which is exactly what you want from your fly half. And him and Marcus Smith, I have to say, that battle at 10, certainly entertaining, and I do look forward to seeing those two sides again face off in November. Now moving on to the centres for this matchup. Number 12, I have stuck with Jordie Barrett. Went pretty underappreciated for what he did throughout that game up against England just on the weekend. He had 17 tackles for the All Blacks. He had quite a few carries. He was very unlucky that one of his best chances, Rieko Ioane, didn't offload the ball to him, but we also saw that nice breaking run from Barrett where he got the pass away to Cody Taylor, so that almost led to the try for the All Blacks. But I think Barrett up against the Fijians, it would be the smart choice at number 12. The other option they've got is Anton Leonard-Brown, but throughout Super Rugby Pacific, that man did play a lot more 13, so I feel like at this point, it wouldn't be very smart if he's going to get more minutes at 13 to give him 12 in this game. I think they're better off sticking with him at that outside centre. But number 13, I have taken out Rieko Ioane from my starting side, and I have put Billy Proctor as that 13 jersey. I think if there is ever a time to try out these new players, of course it would be a debut for Billy Proctor, but it is now up against the Fijians in the USA. If you're not going to give them a crack here, I guess because the Rugby Championship, New Zealand have got Argentina first, they might consider giving those young guys a run in that game as well. But Billy Proctor, number 13, to me it makes sense. Rieko Ioane still not quite finding his form. He had a couple good opportunities in the second test, but just didn't quite get that X Factor going. So that is why I've gone with Billy Proctor, and that partners very nicely with Jordie Barrett as my number 12. But moving on to the back three now. Number 11, I've gone with Caleb Clarke. I mentioned about it on our live stream on the weekend. Mark Talia, it's a weird one because I don't think I've seen a guy play so badly but so well at the same time. He scored 2 tries throughout that game, the only tries that the All Blacks were able to score, but his defence probably also cost the All Blacks 2 tries. And then they had that other opportunity where he passed the ball straight to Marcus Smith. So you could also put that try in the category of missed opportunities. But Talia, he's a brilliant ball runner. He beats defenders. He gets clean breaks. But it just seems to be now anyway that it's been heavily exposed, definitely by England, with those cross kicks. There were 2 times that Mark Talia looked in absolutely no man's land, and both times the English were able to capitalise and score themselves the try. So defensively in this game up against Fiji, I would love to see Caleb Clarke get the opportunity. I mentioned about it throughout Super Rugby Pacific. People always say that Clarke's defence is a little bit suspect, but when you look at his percentages throughout the regular season, he had better tackling than Amoni Narua, than Mark Talia, than Rico Ioane, than Stephen Perafeta, Sean Stevenson, Ruben Love, all those other guys who are jockeying for that back 3 spot. So I would go with Caleb Clarke. He's come a long way. People still seem to think he's the same player as he was last year, but he's made a lot of changes, a lot for the better, and I look forward to hopefully seeing him in that left wing jersey. Out on the right wing, this is where I have gone with Amoni Narua. Sevu Reece, he's had a couple strong games for the ABs. Definitely that first match was the stronger of the 2, but I think that a lot of these guys now need a bit of a rest before getting into the Rugby Championship. Plus, you've got to test the squad depth, give everyone an opportunity, and Amoni Narua yet to have any minutes for the All Blacks this year, so that is why I would have him out on the right wing. He's done a lot for the Chiefs throughout Super Rugby Pacific. In fact, with the lineup that I've gone with here, so far anyway, in the back line, I would argue that this is almost more of a formed Super Rugby team, rather than picking off experience or picking off name, because of course, if you were basing it off what we've seen throughout Super Rugby Pacific, you probably wouldn't have Rico Ioane in that number 13 jersey. Off the back end of the competition, a lot of people would have had Caleb Clarke in better form than Mark Talia. Amoni Narua, he was in some good form. Sevu Reece, though, still great season for the Crusaders, but I would definitely say that there are more informed players in this lineup than the All Blacks did go with in that first test match. And then number 15, this is actually where I've gone with Beauden Barrett, because if he wasn't somewhere in the starting lineup, I think people would riot. Stephen Perafeta, I honestly don't think he did too much wrong throughout the first 2 test matches. In fact, he was one of the stronger players in that backline for the All Blacks in test match number 1. But Beauden Barrett, he's shown everyone what kind of impact he can have off the bench, and now many people are asking for him to take that 10 jersey from Mackenzie. But like I said, they've been playing him as a 15. Yes, he can play first receiver and then shift Mackenzie into that kind of more 12 role with Jordie Barrett alongside him. But Beauden Barrett on paper, when he made his way onto the field, definitely in defence, he was playing as a number 15. So I would go with him at 15 here. I hope he has a great game just like he had last week. And then I think that will shore up a few positions for the All Blacks as well throughout this backline, whether that is the halfback role, whether that's 15, 11 at the moment, I think is going to be a massive debate, because if Caleb Clarke concedes a couple tries down his wing, then people would probably say that they'd rather see Mark Talia. But I think that this is going to be a great game up against the Fijians. And of course, this is what I would go with as my starting XV. I am not in charge, which is very good news, because I would not want to be the All Blacks coach. Whether you get it right or wrong, you're still getting a huge amount of criticism, just like I'm sure this video will get. We often get told we have no idea what we're talking about. I am used to it though, so if you do disagree with what we have gone with in our starting lineup, let me know. Put it in the comments, say who you would switch. If I leave out your favourite player, it's not personal. That's something to remember when commenting on this video. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. We will also have more videos throughout the week of us predicting what Scott Robertson will go with in his lineup. Also, what we think Fiji will be going with in their team. And then once the sides are announced, of course, we will also have those videos going up on the channel alongside the commentary for the weekend and, of course, a preview just beforehand. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all for the next one.